Welcome to Film Forum Presents, a podcast featuring special live events recorded at our theater located at 209 West Houston Street in downtown Manhattan. In this episode, Film Forum presents filmmaker Kantemir Balagov, who appeared for a Q&A following a sneak preview of his film BEANPOLE on January 2nd, 2020, ahead of its U.S. theatrical premiere at Film Forum on January 29th. BEANPOLE, the astonishingly talented 28-year-old Russian filmmaker's second film, is a visually stunning and emotionally resonant drama of two young women piecing their lives back together in decimated post-World War II Leningrad. The Q&A was moderated by Nathaniel Rogers, founder of the Film Experience website. Balagov's interpreter was Sasha Corbett. BEANPOLE is now playing.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Film Forum. Happy New Year. My name is Mike Maggiore. I program the premieres with Film Forum director Karen Cooper, and I want to welcome you to the special advance screening of BEANPOLE tonight with director Kantemir Balagov in person. Kantemir studied filmmaking with Alexander Sokurov for 3 years, and his first feature, Closeness, won the Fipresci Prize at the Cannes Film Festival in 2017. 2 years later, he was back at Cannes with BEANPOLE, which deservedly won the Best Director Award in the Uncertain Regards section. Set just after World War II in 1945 Leningrad, BEANPOLE follows two women working as nurses in a hospital, trying to rebuild their lives among a wrecked society that is still grappling with tremendous trauma. Manola Dargis, writing in the New York Times, called BEANPOLE, quote, a devastating, brilliantly directed and acted drama. We're opening this film as an exclusive engagement on January 29th. Kantemir will be joined after the film for a Q&A with Nathaniel Rogers, film critic and creator of the Film Experience website. And right now, please join me in welcoming Kantemir Balagov.
Thank you. Thanks so much. It's like January 2nd, and we are here. It's amazing. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope you have a nice screening. Thanks so much.
And I just want to mention that we also are showing, before the feature, we're going to show just one trailer, and it's for another great Russian film about World War II, a new restoration of Come and See, which we're opening on February 21st. Thanks.
Folks, please welcome our guest moderator tonight, Nathaniel Rogers.
Hello. Amazing, right? I just wanted to get right to it. A filmmaker, this is only his second film. It's wild. Kantemir Balagov. And we also have Sasha, his translator. Tall chairs. So, this is so assured, and I was saying when we met, I thought you were born to make movies, and yet it wasn't something that you thought you were going to do. So yeah. How did filmmaking come about for you?
Well, I was born in North Caucasus in Nalchik city. It's neighbors with Chechnya and Georgia. I came from just common family, and my mother was a teacher. My mother is a teacher right now, and my father is just like businessman, and so I never know that I want to be a director. I just trying to find myself. I watched some movies, but it was nothing serious. And my father bought me a photo camera with video function to make some money by shooting the weddings in Caucasus, because it's like, yeah, you can raise some money by that. But I didn't want to do that. I tried myself in photo, and after that I just started to shoot some YouTube series with my friends. It was really awful. It was like a homage to Tarantino's movies, but in the bad ways. It was really awful. But I I spent 1 year of my life, and I just realized that I want something new, something big. And a friend of mine told me that Alexander Sokurov opened his studio in Nalchik, and he advised me to reach him and try to see what he will answer. And I text him an email, and he took me on the third grade to his studio. And after that, Alexander Sokurov, he just recreate me as a human being. And yeah.
Yeah, because you were saying when I first saw this, I assumed that you grew up on art films, and I was thinking of like Persona. It's a very different relationship, but the symbiotic women. But it turns out that's not what your background in terms of what you knew about movies was. So you learned all that in film school.
Yeah, in film school. Yeah, before the film school, I watched some early Iñárritu's movies, Tarantino, as I said, but nothing classic. I mean, I didn't watch. I haven't seen like Godard's movie, Bresson, Visconti's movies. So, yeah, it came to me while I was studying in the Sokurov studio. But the most precious thing that I took from the studio, from the Sokurov, it's literature. Sokurov always told to us that directors should read more books and watch less movies, and I think it makes sense.
Well, I think it does too, because this doesn't feel like, I mentioned Bergman, but this doesn't actually feel like anybody else's movie, which is amazing for, only a second film, that it feels like your voice. And you showed me a photograph that inspired you, and I know you're also inspired by literature. So, but how the photograph was amazing. I wish I could show all of you.
It's Robert Capa's photo. It's like when he was in Moscow after the war with John Steinbeck, and it's like two women dancing with each other. Yeah, and it was like reference to the relationships between Masha and Iya. But the main source of inspiration for me was the Svetlana Alexievich's books on woman, the face of war. She gets a Nobel Prize in 2015, I think. It's like a book full of interviews of women who fought at war, and this book just showed me that I knew nothing about the war, and especially I knew nothing about the female side of the war. And yeah, it was just blown away. And I knew that after the book, I knew that I want to make a movie about that. It became to me it became to me really important, not only as a director, but as a citizen and as a human being.
So since it was a nonfiction book, so did you just take from characters within the book?
Yeah, characters, some situations, some intonation of trauma. I've read Andrei Platonov's novels. It's like one of my favorite Soviet, not only Soviet, one of my favorite writers. It's like Andrei Platonov and William Faulkner. It's like two of my favorite writers. So yeah, and which is like we're just trying to mix with fiction and literature, like novels, like Andrei Platonov's novels, like Daniel Granin's books. It's like documentary book of people who were at the siege in Leningrad during the siege. So yeah, we're trying to mix something. Andrei Platonov's is important to me because in his novels it's like he's full of philosophy of starting from the scratch. Because in Platonov's novels, people trying to create new society, new world, and Platonov's create new characters for me, and he recreate a Russian language. So that's because I took some Platonov's vibes, Platonov's intonation, because people after the war, they trying to create new society too, and they're trying to create the language, the body language, and they're trying to fit normal life. So yeah, we're mixing some stuff.
Yeah. Well, since since a book inspired you, and obviously the photograph, but the thing that's so impressive about the movie is visually it's so assured. And you know, a lot of filmmakers default, especially with serious topics like war and trauma, they default to sort of desaturated palettes and all of that. And you have so much color in this movie. So is that something that was always going to be?
No, from the beginning, it should be black and white. Yeah, because as you said, it's a historical movie, World War movie. But when I made some researches, like reading personal diaries and some kind of stuff, I found that people tried to escape the gray reality with the help of colors, and I found it really interesting. And each color has his own meaning in this film, and just like color stagnation and color dynamics in the film depends from the scene and from the characters, and the saturation in this film is a little bit higher because for me it was obvious. It's a few reasons for that. The first reason is like Iya has a PTSD, and maybe the person who has a PTSD sees the world like that, the saturation and the colors. And people who return from the war, their mentality is on the edge. The emotions is on the edge, and that's why the space, the colors in the film is on the edge. So, yeah.
Has Sokurov seen the movie?
Do you know? I don't know. I don't know actually, but I think he doesn't like this film because it's opposite. I think that he loves and do. I don't know, but I would love to if you like the film, because it's really important for me that my master told me that you make something good.
And do you have any other influence? Obviously, Sokurov was a big influence on you, but I was surprised to hear Bergman was not. You told me. So, any other filmmakers that?
Well, if we're talking about this film, there was some references like my friend Ivan Lapshin, Alexei German. There was Larisa Shepitko's film called The Wings, Breaking the Waves, and I think it's Mouchette by Bresson, because this film always sticks with me. So yeah.
So you obviously you've talked before about your casting director being amazing, because the two women in the movie who played Iya and Masha, they are first time. Yeah. Which it's kind of unthinkable with those performances. So did you know right away with those two that it would be those two?
They both came for the first day of the casting, so it was really surprising for me, because from the first day I knew that I have my main characters. But we made a lot of rehearsals. I asked them to read the book on Woman the Face of War, to watch Breaking the Waves, Cranes Are Flying, that I didn't mention because Cranes Are Flying is like the main source for me. And my friend Ivan Lapshin, and read Andrei Platonov's to understand, especially Iya, to understand the character, because Iya it's like the character from Platonov's novels, because in Platonov's novels his heroes are so innocent and unarmed, and I think their strength in their innocence. So we made a lot of rehearsals, but for me it doesn't matter. Актерское мастерство не важно.
The master of acting is not that important.
It's not that important, yeah, because the boy Sasha and the doctor Nikolai Ivanovich, they are non-professional actors. They're not actors. So the Sasha is just this boy is used to sell the books in the bookstore, and we found him with the social medias. For me, it's like the main source. It's charisma. It's like personality. It's trauma. Do they have the trauma inside them? So
So I take it in film school you didn't study like acting theory then, or any?
No, we did acting.
Oh, okay.
We did act. Yeah, we did act in film school because Sakurov wants us to feel how what we should do with the actors, what we should say to the actors. It was really painful for me, this acting school. Yeah.
We should turn it over to the crowd if any of you have questions here. Don't be shy. Way in the back there.
Hold on just a second for the microphone.
Just what was in the letter?
The language between two women, they don't have words for many, many things, which is very authentic. Not only in general in Russian, but at that time especially, and that is very well communicated. They talk very sparingly, and I think it's very truthful how people talk. How did you, and you are being young and living now, and there are so many more words in Russian language right now to express things. How did these dialogues, and how did you manage to write that so it rings true? Oh, I'm sorry. Was I supposed to talk in Russian?
Well, it will be helpful, yeah.
Откуда у вас язык взялся между ними, когда они говорили между собой? Потому что он очень настоящий. Они не могут выразить ничего.
Well, as I said, the literature, I've read a lot. I tried to read a lot about those times, and yeah, literature. But the most important thing for me was the silence, the intonation of silence, because people at those times were so exhausted, and they didn't have so much energy to talk with each other, and that's why there's so much silence in this film, and it was really important for me because it's not important what they are saying to each other. It's important that they are not saying. So maybe because of that, I don't know.
You got a question up here.
Just to clarify what was in the letter. Now I know, but I didn't get it at all in the movie.
Anybody else?
I had a question. The kind of tone of the film has, even when the women are nude, like because men play such peripheral role, there's no sort of male gaze to the film. Was that intentional?
Что в фильме в основном нет мужского взгляда на это, в основном только женский. Это было намеренно сделать больше женскую историю.
Well, as I said, after the book, I understood that I knew nothing about the female side of the war, and in modern Russian cinema, there's no stories about the female at the war and after the war. In Soviet films, it's like Larissa Shepitko's film Wings. So I think it was really important for me to tell the female story, and it was important for me not only as a director, as a human being, because I lived all my childhood with my mother, and I'm trying to discover myself with the help of my characters, and I'm trying to discover my female side with the help of my characters, because my first one, Closeness, was about the female too, about a young girl in North Caucasus. So yeah, I feel comfortable with the female characters right now. So yeah, I think so.
One sequence that struck me in this was when Masha visited Sasha's parents, and they were very condescending, viciously so, to her, and she sort of spat out that condescension back at them. What I wanted to know was there a specific historical or literary basis for those two characters, the parents, who they were they just a product of writing this? Fictional.
Я понял. Эта сцена, это как квинтэссенция всей книги «У войны не женское лицо».
Еще раз повторю.
Эта сцена, это как образ всей книги «У войны не женское лицо». То есть все диалоги, все про то, что говорит Маша, это все, что было в книге.
Yeah, so this scene represents this. It's a huge metaphor for the book that he mentioned earlier, that Women's in the War.
So it's actually based on true events or true stories.
We have a question here in the back.
Sorry.
Ma'am?
Thank you. That was absolutely remarkable.
Thank you.
I think we have a lot in this country right now. We have a lot of cliches in the air about trauma and PTSD, but you showed us how people are broken, and it was really unforgettable. I'd like to ask you a question. One of the remarkable performances was the little boy. How do you direct a child? How do you elicit that?
Yeah, the child he's amazing. I don't know. It's just like I think a miracle happened on the set because you can't predict these things, especially with the child, and I think it's miracle.
But to talk about him a little bit more, that scene where they're doing the animals, such a memorable scene. Was that something was there any improv in those things for him, or did you walk him through everything he had to do?
No. I told him what he needs to do, what he needs to feel, or something like that. I'm not sure that he understands that he understood everything, but we had a conversation like a grown-ups with him. So because he's really mature kid, and
How old was he?
he was 4, 3.5, something like that.
I think we have time for just one more question, and then let's absolutely move this conversation into the lobby. Oh, right in the front.
Thank you. I was struck by the silences, but the facial expressions that changed during those silences were so emotionally charged that I could feel it, and it was almost like I was part of the scene. And I wondered if others felt that you caught people in such an emotional way.
Thank you so much. Well, from the beginning, I think that, we are making the film about post-war syndrome, and we need to see the Leningrad in ruin because of the siege, because of the war, and etc., etc. But at the end, I thought that for me, it's most important to show the devastation of the war through the faces, for the body language. So, yeah, the faces, the emotions is really important for me.
Have you? We need to wrap up, but what has the reaction been like in Russia? Are people responding to it in terms of?
Well, it was 50-50. It was 50-50. Someone liked the film, someone didn't. Because of the theme, because it's Second World War, and right now, as I said, films about the Second World War is like pseudo-patriotic, quasi-patriotic, like We Can Repeat, something like that. But there's people who like the film, and what I really liked that when I went in Q&As in Russia, I saw many young people, and it was really important to me to share my experience from the book with the persons who are the same age as me. So I hope the mission accomplished.
Well, a great movie. Thanks to Kantemir
Thanks so
Balagov.
much.
Kantemir, we're gonna go this way.
Special thanks to Kino Lorber for making this event possible. If you like what you just heard, please be sure to subscribe to get future episodes and rate and review so that more movie lovers can find us. Film Forum is an independent nonprofit cinema, and our doors have been kept open for nearly 50 years thanks to the invaluable support of our members and donors. Please visit www.filmforum.org for details on membership, as well as information and showtimes for our current programming. See you at the movies.